Take one, tofu salad.
Hi, welcome to the Wisdom to Wellness Show. I'm Michael McCarthy, and today's guest is Mimi Lorero from O2 Vegan Cafe and her son Devin. Welcome.
Thanks.
So you're going to be teaching us how to make some vegan food today?
That's correct.
I'm excited. I have a question for you. What's vegan food?
Well, vegan food is food made without products from animals. So that can be anything from milk or eggs, obviously meat, even down to honey, anything that comes from an animal.
So why can't you eat honey?
We can. One of our favorite phrases in our family is that we choose not to. So which is different than we can't. A lot of people say, oh, you can't eat that. And we say, of course we can. We just choose not to.
I see.
So all of the foods that we eat are plant-based.
Understood. Have you always been eating that way?
I've been a vegetarian since I was 14.
Okay.
And my kids were raised vegetarian up till the age of 8 and 10, when each of them chose to go vegan on their own.
And what's the difference between vegetarian and vegan?
Typically when you say vegetarian, that means that there are eggs and dairy still in the mix or the food. When you go vegan, you go completely plant-based.
I see. Have you noticed any differences in how you feel when you became a vegetarian and then from a vegetarian to a vegan?
Definitely. When I was a vegetarian, I used a lot of dairy as a replacement for the foods that I missed, like meat.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more cheese, a lot more eggs, a lot more cream, those kind of things to sort of fill in the food. Since I've been vegan, I've noticed I feel more creative with my cooking, but I also feel a lot lighter. I actually have a degree in nutrition, so my sense of it is that a lot of dairy foods and eggs are very heavy and hard to process.
Mm-hmm.
So the more plant-based foods...
Process in your body or...
Exactly.
Okay.
So the more plant-based foods you have, the lighter your diet is.
And do you feel lighter in your body?
Definitely.
Interesting. And Devin, have you always been a vegan?
Since age 8, I went vegan on a bet.
You went vegan on a bet?
Yeah.
So how old are you now?
10.
10. So you've been a vegan for 2 years?
Yeah.
Did you want to take the bet when you did it?
Yes.
And what was the bet? Tell me about it.
Well, I tried going vegan 2 times before. One time I accidentally ate French toast. The other time, I don't remember what happened.
Why can't you eat French toast?
French toast is dunked in eggs.
Oh, right, it's dunked in eggs. And so, what happened when you started eating vegan food? What did you think of it?
It's good. It surprised me how well it replaced it, but I still do miss dairy.
You miss dairy?
Yes.
Okay, I like the honest answers. So you're going to show us a little bit of vegan food?
Yes. We've chosen some recipes that are staples in our family.
Mm-hmm.
They're also staples in our cafe. They're real basic, and I like to call these recipes carnivore tested, meaning we've served them to all different kinds of people and they've liked them regardless of being vegan or not.
Well, I eat everything,
Mm-hmm.
and I like everything. So, can I be your taste tester?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm hungry.
Fantastic. Well, let's get started, Devin. So we're going to start with a tofu salad, and which honestly, if you just call it that, it doesn't sound that appetizing, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think tofu is flavorless, and for the most part it is. But it does carry flavors really nicely. So what we're doing is a salad that you could use on a sandwich. It's sort of like egg salad, but I don't really like to call it that because we're not trying to replace or make something taste exactly like something else.
Okay.
But it has some of the qualities. Would you say that's correct? Fantastic. So we're going to be working with the food processor for this one. This one's pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take the veggies first and process them to a rough chop. And the nice thing about doing the vegetables first is that you get them to the consistency that you want. And then when you add something like tofu, you can just pulse it real quick and then you can get it to a chunky consistency without making it into something that looks like hummus, for example. So
Okay.
you always want to, we sort of split up the process. So Devin, we are going to take, let's take these two and throw them in here. And we're also going to take so we'll trade places for a second. A half of an onion. I use sweet onion in any of the non-cooked foods that we make. So if we're not going to cook it, you want a sweet onion because it's less intense.
Okay. So are these Vidalia onions?
These are Vidalia onions, exactly. And I don't do a lot of pre-chopping because we're going to use the food processor, but I like to get them in sort of uniform chunks. Now, one of the nice things about this recipe is that you can hide a lot of vegetables in there.
Oh,
so
good.
for kids who don't like veggies, for example, you can put stuff in there and they're not going to really be, you're not going to pick up a lot of the flavors. The onion, obviously. I'm going to throw spinach in, but I've also done this with green peppers. Devin, why am I not putting green pepper in this recipe?
Well, one, I don't like it, and two,
Exactly.
it's a lot of,
Here you go.
So the theme is put in ingredients that your whole family likes.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Peppers can be really strong.
They can be, yes.
So, okay. So we're going to do a rough chop. Until we get it uniform.
That was
Great.
easy.
Yeah. And so you can see how the veggies are chopped up pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we are going to add, what I'd like you to do, Devin, is take the tofu. Now, one of the things that people hate about working with tofu is that a lot of times you'll see in cookbooks that you have to drain it, you have to press it, you have to do all these things to get the water out. I'm way too lazy to do that, and it's really not that necessary. As long as you use a good quality tofu and a extra firm, this will work great. So what I want you to do is take that and just crumble it up a little bit and throw it in there.
Looks like feta cheese.
It does.
So for our total carnivore friends out there in
Yeah.
TV land,
Yeah.
what's tofu?
Tofu is soy-based. It's a fairly non-processed food. And what's nice about that means it's the whole soybean that is cultured. A lot of vegetarian or vegan foods are made to mimic things like ham or bologna, and they tend to be a lot more processed. So what I try to use is as close to the whole food as possible. So all this is the soybean made into, like, it's essentially like making a cheese, but you use soybeans instead of dairy.
Oh, that's easy to understand.
And we're going to take some Vegenaise, which is a vegan form of mayonnaise. Mayonnaise has egg in it,
Right.
which is the emulsifier. This has...
What's an emulsifier?
It's something that blends a liquid and an oil. So for example, when you make a salad dressing, you take your olive oil, you take your balsamic vinaigrette, and then you might put something like honey in there or mustard that helps the two to blend together.
Because oil and water don't mix.
Correct.
I see. So an emulsifier allows oil and water to mix together.
Correct.
It's like a harmonizer.
Exactly.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to put some mustard. How about I open the container first?
Sure. So tell me, what do they use to make Vegenaise? How's that made? And what do they use instead of the dairy?
Honestly, I would have to read you the ingredients, but I believe that it is some type of guar gum or some naturally occurring gum. That's usually what you find in these products that hold them together.
So they're like thickeners.
Correct.
Okay. So like guar and xanthan gum are thickeners.
Exactly.
Should people be afraid when they see guar gum and xanthan gum on an ingredient label?
Sometimes.
Where?
You know, there's some issues with certain gums and allergic reactions that people are having. I just started picking this up recently, so I can't say that I know a lot about it at this point, but I have heard that specifically guar can be problematic for certain people. My sense of it is that the least processed the food, the better.
Yes.
Honestly, if I was disciplined enough right now, I'd make my own mayonnaise. I'd make my own everything. So I kind of pick my battles. Most of the food that we're going to be doing here is made out of non-processed foods. This is probably the most processed thing we're going to use today.
Okay.
So we've got the tofu, we've got the veggies, we've got mustard, and I'm going to put a little salt.
Does it matter what kind of salt?
I like kosher salt. I like the feel of it in my hands. I prefer it, and I also really like salt. So people can use a little or a lot, but I tend to like salt. It's a flavor enhancer. A lot of people have a problem with salt. They're worried about it. My sense of it is that you don't have blood pressure issues. Your diet is nice and clean. Don't worry too much about added salt. What you worry about is, again, processed foods. They tend to have a lot more sodium in them than putting salt directly into your food. The last thing we're going to put in is something that's a little weird. It's called nutritional yeast.
Okay.
This is something that is a staple for most vegans. It's very high in B12, which is the only vitamin that we cannot get from plant-based sources.
And why is vitamin B12 important?
Vitamin B12 is essential nutrient. It's good for, I don't know.
It's an honest
I'm
show.
going to say something off the top of my head that is not going to be correct. So I'm going to say I don't know for sure.
I do know vitamin B, the whole vitamin B complex is good to prevent depression.
Excellent for mood, definitely. And then each one has a specific function, which I can't think of off the top of my head.
Me either, which is something that our guests can Google later.
Right. Google it. Okay, so we've got the nutritional yeast. We've got the veggies, the mustard.
And is there any particular kind of tofu that you would want to get?
Honestly, I prefer fresh tofu. If you have a good health food store, you will find that they have these big buckets, and the tofu is in the water. You reach in and you put it in a bag.
Okay.
That's the best. This is not as good.
Okay.
It's much more convenient. So again, my sense of it is to pick your battles. When
Right.
people are trying to change their habits, their diets, whatever, if they go too extreme, then they tend to find that it's impossible. So starting with small steps and then adding on from there. But if you have access to fresh tofu, it tends to be better. Would you agree? Great.
Do you prefer fresh tofu, Devin?
Yes.
How long does fresh tofu last once you buy it from the store?
About 5 days.
Okay.
You have to keep it in water, and you have to change the water every day.
So submerged in water
Correct.
and change it every day?
Correct.
Okay. And you can't freeze it?
You can freeze it, but it changes the texture dramatically.
That doesn't sound good dramatically.
Well, Dylan and Devin's grandmother, my mother-in-law, is very, very sweet and wonderful about their vegan diet. And she's always experimenting. And one of the things she makes, tell me about she does something where she freezes tofu and then makes it into something. Do you remember?
Oh yes, it's a very long complex. You have to freeze tofu for 3 days or something, and then it turns. Basically, it's a way to make cheese out of tofu.
Oh.
And you actually freeze it, and if you wait long enough, it starts to get a little yellow tint.
And spongy, right?
Yeah, a little spongy. And then because there's this really weird sandwich that's actually made on French toast, which. That was a very strange sandwich.
Oh, it was a Monte Cristo that she used frozen tofu on. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
There's this
so
whole recipe how to
let's see how we did. Devin, try that to tell me if that's close to how you like it.
That's good.
How did it come out? Good?
It does taste kind of like egg salad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. If you just gave this to me at a party, I'd eat it. It's good. I might not know exactly what it is, but it's good.
You gave this to me at a party. I'd eat it. That is a raving review
hungry.
from Michael. All right, so we're going to transfer this.
So it's just tofu, some mustard. I can taste a little bit of mustard.
Uh-huh.
Spinach, the sweet Vidalia onion,
Correct.
carrots, and then the veganaise.
That's correct.
That's good.
That is correct. And nutritional yeast.
Nutritional yeast. Can you
And a
taste
little bit of
nutritional
salt.
yeast?
You can. Some people think it has like a kind of a cheesy flavor. I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely, I don't know, it kind of, I would liken it to water versus broth. You know when you make a nice hearty broth, there's something about the broth that pulls everything together that makes it a little richer. And that's what I
Okay.
find with nutritional yeast. When I add it to something like this, it's almost like it pulls it together.
I know one thing about nutritional yeast. It's very good on pasta.
Very good on pasta. Yeah,
Really?
some people use it instead of Parmesan.
I've done
So
that
like a
many
sprinkled cheese?
times. Yeah.
We also use it in our, when we make popcorn.
Can I
And you
try some?
sprinkle it. Yeah, absolutely.
So this sort of looks like little flakes.
Yes, and you can buy it in large flakes or small flakes.
It's a little salty, but yeah, it's kind of like a dried cheese.
Exactly.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I could just eat it like this. Did I tell you I was hungry?
You did. Do you want some more chips?
I do.
Okay.
You know what I'll do? I'll get creative and I'll do one of these,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll sprinkle all the nutritional yeast on it.
Ooh,
How's
let's do that. How did that go?
Mmm,
Yeah?
that's very good.
So then you could put more of that in there. So more or less of that flavor in something like this will change the flavor a little bit. And it's good
Anyone
for you.
who likes egg salad would like that.
Awesome.
And anyone who likes cheese would like nutritional yeast.
Well, I wouldn't go that
Was
far.
I do.
What I mean by that is that, you know, a lot of people have a problem with this whole idea of like trying to make something taste exactly like something else. So for us, it's really, really hard to get anything that's going to match the flavor of a good cheddar. Or ask my kids. You know, they have one day a year, they have a non-vegan day, and they gorge themselves, not on any meat because they've never eaten that, but usually it's something like cheese, right? A good cheddar or something like that.
We kind of just go get cheddar, chocolate,
Nom, nom, nom.
and ice cream,
Uh-huh.
and just eat it.
And they eat it all day long, 24 hours.
How do you feel when you eat all that non-vegan food for the one day?
I feel great. My taste buds are like partying, and then the next day I have like a dairy hangover,
What's the dairy hangover feel like?
a really bad stomach ache, and you don't want to get out of bed.
Oh. Well, when you get older, the same thing will happen with alcohol.
That I can guess.
You can only guess.
Can you eat as much of this as you want?
Yeah.
And what are the health benefits of nutritional yeast? Sounds good.
Again, it's got B12. It's got a little bit of protein in it.
Okay. I could see just sprinkling that on almost anything.
Exactly. One of the things that we do at home is we do like a sort of a mock parm. We take walnuts, a little salt, nutritional yeast, stick it in the food processor, and then you sprinkle it on pasta. So it has a little bit more fat in it from the nuts, and that creates like a nice kind of Parmesan-y kind of thing too.
And you said you put this on popcorn. Mm-hmm. I could see I like cheese on popcorn. I could see this easily on popcorn.
Delicious on popcorn.
Nice. Maybe I'll take a little to go.
Absolutely. I'll send some home with you.
Okay. Could I give one of these to our cameraman?
Please do.
Because she's probably hungry. Here you go. Enjoy.